Kia ora tātou, ngā mihi aroha kia koutou. Tarāriki te wai, huruhuru te whenua, hauraki te tūranga waiwai. Ko Mike O'Donnell aha. Nau mai piki, mai kake, mai haere mai. It's just to welcome you here. Welcome you here to Tarāriki, where I'm hanging out with Bob Corker. Bob and I, we're old mates. And Bob's asked me to do some clay work. I'm a clay worker, a sculptor, an artist. And I've been in support of koanga and the seeds for a long time now. And we just love collaborating, my bro and I. Come on over here, Bob. And Bob's come here to my pottery, Tarāriki, to just let me share a little bit about clay and how accessible it is, and that it's in the capability of everybody to put together a bit of a clay to make the sorts of tiles that they want for the rocket stoves. So I've just got some raw materials here, and I'm going to put them together, and one of them Bob bought. Bob, what's this stuff?
This is whakamahia clay from Wairoa.
Yeah.
And this has been used in the past for firing drainage field tiles.
Field tiles, yeah. So it has that capability to fire up red. Do you have a tile around here somewhere?
Some of that stuff over there, those tiles. There.
Oh yeah, here's one here. Bob's bought raw materials, pumice, and this is a low-fired, primitively fired clay tile that he's experimenting with. And yeah, and this is what this whole thing's about. Don't be afraid to experiment. So I've got some of Bob's clay here, and I've wet it down a bit. You can see in this vessel here. It's best to dry a clay out and then crush it up and then add the water to it. And into this, because we want to make up a tile that's porous, one that's really good insulation, isn't too dense, doesn't take the heat away from the fire. So we're going to add materials to it, and in this case I'm putting in some sawdust, and Bob in the workshopping, he will give you the sort of measurements, you know. I'm not Betty Crocker, you know, this is Mike O'Donnell, and anyhow, I'm just adding that in there, and immediately what is good is the dry sawdust sucks up that slip. So you can see I've actually got a material there already. The clay is binding it. Now this clay of Bob's is more a silt sort of material. Here Bob, we'll put that over there. And so what we've got going on here is the beginnings of a clay base to make the tiles. Now this is the clay that Bob's got accessible in Kei on the land there, back at Kotari village at Koanga. And but there are clays everywhere. You know, you'll be going through road cuttings, and you'll see maybe they've had to clear a whole lot of debris, a nice yellow rich clay. The key to getting that clay is here's one that's from around here in Hauraki. I've got it wrapped up. It's quite a plastic clay. If you can roll it together about the size of a finger and just go like that, and it's not cracking too much or not at all, then you've got a really nice plastic clay. Now that's going to be the main binding material for these tiles, okay? The other things, the ingredients we're looking at is you can get river sand, and you can sieve it, you know, to sort of a smallish size. In this case here, I've got a stuff called grog. You can't drink it, it's terrible. But it's crushed up bricks and clay, and you can buy these sorts of things, okay? These materials are accessible to everybody. You can buy them. This here I've got here is another clay, and it's fire clay, and you can buy bags of that from your local hardware. And I'm just mixing that in there, so immediately you're seeing I'm starting to get a decent brew going, you know? And it's got grit in it, it's got sawdust in it, and so the clay body itself is opening up a bit more, you know. Now over here, Bob's bought some pumice, and for some people pumice is available. And here, Bob, can you lift that thing up there? I've just made up a crushing box, and we can throw that in there, and he'll just pound it away down to a decent size, okay? Yeah. And that'll become a material that we can use. Yep, give it another blast, sort of, and we'll get it down to a size where we can... Now, the pumice itself has amazing insulation qualities, and Bob has brought along some beautiful tiles of pumice that he's hand cut with a saw, and he's very fortunate because he's been able to access these big floaters. They're big hunks of pumice. I mean, Bob's even talked about making one rocket stove just out of that one solid piece, and but he's been cutting tiles out of it, and they're real lightweight. Because they're so lightweight and they're a volcanic material, highly aerated, then the insulation of this sort of material is amazing, because it means the fire doesn't give its heat to the tile or to the material making up the rocket stove. It means that the fire delivers all of its heat to where you want it to. So that's kind of an ideal material. So we're going to see if we can just kind of replicate that by making up a tile. So I'm going to get a bit of this crushed pumice here, and somewhere here I've got a sieve, and we can use a sieve and just put it on there. I mean, look, we're just doing this quite primitively, just to give people... So we've got different gradations there, and I quite like those bigger ones. I'll even put them in.
Yeah, they'll go in there.
They'll be there. So we'll put all of that in, except for the great big stuff. And so scoop that up, Bob. And let's just put it into here.
A bit more.
Yep, a bit more. I just work it in, and already you're seeing a brew come up, you know. Now, it's pretty cool. You can get clays from grey to yellow to white, red, and the red and yellow clays are the ones that have a higher iron content, and they're even better for doing what Bob's doing here. Now look, that's a clay there, and it just looks like, oh God, what would you use that for? Well, if I break that down, again with my stamper, I have the little box just so it contains the material. I crush that down, then I put that in a bowl of water, and it would turn into a lovely slurry, and I could dry that out to the right stage in a bit of sack or something like that. And what's really cool about using your own clay is your rocket stove totally identifies with your place or where you live. So it's a pretty special journey to go on. Here's another one. This one here is just like that, and I slaked it down, and look at this. Just come and have a look at that. Look at how juicy that is. I mean, that's really sexy clay, you know. Really fertile living clay, and I could sculpt with that straight away. And that's straight out of the side of a hill where there was a big slip. So when you're looking for clays, you keep your eyes scanned, and maybe you've always got a bag or a little shovel in the back of the car when you're on your journey. So we're going to mix a bit of that in there. Yeah. And we're going to do a brew. And see if we can come out with a little primitive tile that I'll make up here. But what I want to show you first is, well, how do you get several clays to mix together? What's the best way? So I've got a base clay here, quite a plastic sort of clay. Again, it's got that amazing test of, see, it's not even cracking, you know, it's, you know, I can coil it up and form it into form and, you know, no problem. So that's a very plastic clay. So really in these things you don't need a lot of this sort of clay. What Bob wants is very open mix, and what we've got going on here already, maybe we can put a bit more of that pumice in there, Bob. It's not like you got to try and make 100 tiles at once. Once you get your recipe together, crushed up old bricks, you can use all of that, you know. You can immediately see that we've got quite a gnarly mix going on there. Now, to be quite honest, we could ram that into a tile, just like that. There's enough stickiness, just enough, in the material that Bob's got, which is quite a silty sort of material. Did it come out of the ground or by the river, Bob?
Out of the ground. Yep.
Out of the ground, on the property.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, not on our property, but not too
Yep,
far away.
okay. So that's like a sticky, biscuity sort of thing that you'd be making like an oatmeal cake, you know. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So I got this clay here. This is my clay. We've got Maureen Ellison's clay here from Whangamata. Beautiful stuff. And we've got this gnarly mix here from down Tunuroto way, Wairoa way. So I've got a cutting wire, like a cheese cutting wire, and I'm just going to cut sort of some sheets, you know, just like that, okay? And then I'm going to a couple of cuts here, yep. And then we've got our mix there, okay? So you can see that's quite a dense clay, so we want to open that up so it's got some better thermal properties. So we'll put a bit of this in there. Basically we're making up a sandwich, you know, like a club sandwich. This is the Kotari Club Sandwich, you know. Kotari Taraariki, which is the name of this place, Club Sandwich. So we're in the club. Here we go. I've got a bit of that going in there. And you know, clay is amazing stuff. Like, people don't really focus on the extraordinary nature of clay, because clay has come from stardust. It carries the memory of the origin of the universe. It came as an inorganic material, you know, a mineral, rock, and over billions of years it's weathered down to form an organic material, a living organic being. The clay, for us, for me as a clay worker, it's a sacred job. Sacred job working with clay, because you're given, you're entrusted the sacred Mother Earth, Papatuanuku, and we are entrusted to shape this clay into form, and then through fire, when we fire it, this clay will go back to stone from whence it came. So we're involved in this miraculous little cyclical regenesis of the stone to the clay, to form, and back into stone. So we render it through fire. So we've got this sandwich going on here. Now you can use just a cutting wire and you go through there. It's pretty gnarly. My cutting wire will probably break soon. But look, she's pretty gnarly. And so we double that over. So okay, so we had 6 sheets, now we've got 12, okay? And then we go in and we cut again. And now we're 24. 48. 96. 192. 384. 4 768 or something like that. If I kept going for 20 cuts, there'd be more than 1 million cuts there. And wedging clay this way reminds me of quantum shift all the time. How we reach out and we touch another. Because in 20 cuts, it doubles up. We've got over 1 million slices of clay in there. And that's the way it is in life. When we touch someone else, this is how Kotari works. This is how Koinga Gardens works and the workshops they're doing. When they reach out and touch 10 other people, and those people go and touch 10, and those people go and touch 10, suddenly we've touched 1 million people, and we're making change in the world. And it's not coming from the head of the tree, it's coming from the roots of the tree. It's coming from the heart of the tree. So already you can see this kind of gorgeous, gnarly clay. See it changing shape? I mean, see there? Just changing shape. I always love doing this with kids. Whoa, tiny clay. Okay, here we go. So there I am mixing clay. No big deal. For the potter, when we wedge clay, it's to get the air out. The baker needs and wedges the dough to get the air in. So we've got a beautiful clay there. Come on up and have a closer look. And we'll have a look at the internal of this clay. So all of those materials have married, eh? And that's a lovely gnarly looking mix there. It's well bonded, it's good and strong. We could add more material to open it up, but that's pretty much perfect to me. Because you'll want the tiles to be durable, as well as light and having insulative qualities. So I'm just going to show you a real simple way, and this is quite a cool process. I've worked with kids for years with these, but of course this isn't actually the size of the tile, but Bob might make something up like this. And I've got a former here, and it's quite trippy because I can trip the tile out when I make it, or I can make a tile that size, or that size, or that size. So those three sizes are computations for something you're going to build, like this rocket stove. Okay? So that's the sort of opportunity that's there. Very, very simple. And this acts as a release mechanism. Yeah, it's the old pair of sheets torn up. And so into there, you'll figure out how much clay you need. And you can just... I designed these for young children to be able to make and do the whole process, because we're in a society where people don't get to see the whole process of the raw material coming together with their dream, making the tile, shaping it into a tile, carving it with their story, firing it, and then there they have the story that they have carried in the dream. So they have an archetype. They've shaped out an archetype. So this is just pushing the clay in. And when I first made these, I was never kind of really prepared to see that just this process of making out a tile was such an experience for these kids. I'd never thought that, you know, that we're so locked up these days. You know, you're not even allowed to let the kids chop wood in a workshop, or they might cut themselves, or light a fire, they might burn themselves. So I watched these kids just loving this. And there's the start of the tile. Now what's kind of cool about these is you use the sheet to pull back and work the edge, you know. So you can work each edge and you get a nice tidy tile, you know. And you pull it back this way and in this whole process I watch young people, and not just young people, but I watch them get lost because they're being the creator. they are working with living clay. Living clay, something else happens when you work with clay. And my belief is it's because the living clay knows who you are. The living clay holds the story. From the beginning of what people might say is Genesis to a regenesis in this process, this creative process. And okay, this is just simply making a tile for a rocket stove, okay? Well, I'll tell you what. When you built your rocket stove out of clay that you've resourced, out of clay that you've prepared, and it's all story, I mean, look at it. Whangamata, Tara Ariki, Tinu Roto, old Kānaka sawdust, the waters of Tarariki, crushed up brick, pumice from the Taupo eruptions. Suddenly you got this unbelievable story locked away in this clay. And so when you build your rocket stove, and when you fire it, and when you pull out that maybe, I don't know, that little bit of fried bread or the potatoes cooked on the top of it, I'll tell you what, you will taste in that food something else that nobody else knows, but you know, because you're the creator of the whole process. And in making this rocket stove, what you're doing is creating an appliance that can honour the food from the garden that came from those, ancient seeds. And in that cooking process, it becomes an amazing ritual. People gather around the fire, suddenly you generate a common unity, a community, you share all the ideas, and then you share the kai. And that's the biggest ritual in life for me. Share the kai, to come into communion, the reclamation of what communion really is, partaking of the food from the land and the sea and the waters, yeah? So what I've got here now is I've got a tile, and I'll trip this out of here. Bob, can you pass me that big tile down there? Yeah, that one, yep. So can you just hold that? Yep. Put it on top of this. Yep, put it on top. Yep. Yep, okay. Right, yep, choice. Now hold that. Yep. Put that down there. Yep. So, and this is how you release the tile. I wouldn't use a heavy tile, I just have 2 bits of wood. And then you can take your piece of wood off. And then just watch this, come a bit closer. You'll be able to see what's going to happen now is you're going to release the tile. And just like that, that's why these are designed like that. And I release the tile. And I was never prepared for how cool this was for kids. They just loved peeling the skin back. Look at that. One perfect tile. All structured. Compressed with your hands, Yeah. So, I reckon we can make some bigger templates like this with koanga can. Get someone in. And the beauty, once again, as I say, it's that size. And then you're going to need some smaller ones that size, or that size to make up the jigsaw of what is a simple little rocket stove. And the rocket stove could just be that big. Yeah? That big. That, and that. Yeah. And the tiles could be that big. They don't have to be any more than that. Yeah? Okay. So, nō reira. Aroha nui ki a koutou. Have some fun out there, eh? I know it's easy maybe to slip down to Benchmark or whatever they call themselves and go and try and buy some tiles and all of that shit, but we are so disempowered. By the materials we use, we're disempowered by the food that we buy in the supermarket, we're disempowered by our medicine, and really, if you want to really get it from me, this is the deepest spiritual experience I can be involved in, and it's called creative process and manifesting here on earth. Kia ora.